How are you guys, and welcome back to episode number 6. I can't believe we're this far through the process. It's really cool to see this car transform into something that's usable and drivable compared to what we received it in. So everything's working out really good. In this episode, we've got some really exciting things that are happening. We've got some stuff on the way for the cam gear and the idle control valve, which is really good. Leading up to Christmas, everything's a little bit busy and delayed, so we've had to sort of wait a little bit longer than we wanted to for these things. But they should be here and in this video, and you'll see the outcome of fitting those up to the car, which is really cool. The other thing we're going to be doing is going to vehicle inspections. We're going to try and get the rego on this car this episode. Stay tuned, guys. I hope you enjoy the video. Alright guys, so we're obviously going to have to wait for that cam gear to show up. It's really good that we ended up finding a idle control valve along with the cam gear. Fingers crossed they actually rock up. I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous, but the guy seemed really genuine and nice, so you know, like I said, fingers crossed everything turns out really good. Tracking at the moment says those parts should be here on Monday, and we should be able to install them straight away. It is Christmas time, so I'm not holding my breath. There may be Tuesday or something like that, but I'm really hoping that everything comes together and we can get this car through to rego this coming week. I think the really good thing that has happened, because this has all been pushed off a little bit, is that Ollie is now on school holidays, so that means that he's going to be able to come down to the rego check with us. So I think that's going to be a real positive in the situation. Definitely got our leak from the back here, unfortunately. So the leak, give you a top down, when I had that paper up, the oil was not coming from back here, which would mean that it's a rocker cover gasket or a cam seal. The leak is coming from here in between the back black plate and the cam gear, which is that dodgy part of the cam gear that I was showing you. The other thing obviously is the idle control valve. I'm really happy that we've got a new one of those coming. That's going to be a really good feeling to be able to put a fresh one of those on. So that's pretty much everything sorted. I'm not going to need to worry about blocking that back pipe off. We're going to have a working idle control valve and a working cam gear. All right, so what are we going to do in the meantime? We've got everything in the engine bay sorted. We're just waiting on those 2 parts to change over and we're good to go. We need to work out what's left on the list and what else we need to do. I think we're pretty much done, except those. That's a good idea. We've got brand new, genuine Nissan OEM R34 headlights. You can chuck that on the table, man. That is one thing we have not changed out. So you might remember back from the start of the video, these headlights are absolutely haggis. So you can see heaps of moisture has gotten into these headlights and they're all discolored, and these back housings are definitely broken, and I don't know what the hell is going on here. This one is all good, but we've got 2 brand spanking new headlights, which is going to be a big difference to the front of the car. It's probably not going to be ideal having it with this front bumper. Obviously the GDR front bumper is going on here after we've got rego, but yeah, we'll get this bumper off. We'll get these brand new headlights in. Have a look at these. These are brand new from Just Jap, guys. These guys have been lifesavers with getting all this stuff. But look at that. Look at the difference. Is just crazy. Even to the good one is so different. It's going to look so good. All right. Carefully, very carefully put these on. These are, where's part numbers? So genuine Nissan, got our genuine Nissan part numbers there. We've got a left and a right. This car came factory with xenon headlights, so you can see the xenon in there, which means they have a controller box on the bottom of them, and it's a special type of globe. Unfortunately, the last person that had this car, they were obviously too cheap to find replacement genuine xenon globes, because they can be a little bit pricey. So they've chucked an aftermarket HID kit in there, and I'm pretty sure, we'll find out soon, but I think the bottom control boxes are gone. And so the thing we're doing is we're swapping to non-xenon headlights, which I actually like the look of a lot more. They've got that really nice black background. These are the exact same part number and headlight as a R34 GDR. They share the same headlight all the way through with the GTTs and the 4-doors as well. So exactly the same headlight. These ones are super expensive. The Xenons are even more expensive. Some people are asking $5,000–6,000 for used Xenon headlights, which is just absolutely insane because they're from a $200,000 car now. The 34 GTRs have gone up so much in price, but these non-Xenons, people are still asking crazy money for used ones, but these are brand new and these are about 1,100 bucks each. So we're going to be really careful with these. We're going to get that front bar off. Ollie, you reckon you're going to be able to get that front bar off?
Yeah, I reckon.
I reckon there's going to be 2 bolts here, a couple of plastic clips here, even one missing, and then I reckon that's going to come straight off, and we'll get these headlights in, see what they look like, eh? Pulling the car apart is always fun, isn't it? Finding new damage. So we've got a bit of a dent where it's pushed in on the bumper reinforcement, and then the condenser fan. But the good news is that all these wings look like they're all good where it sort of fits up. So we might need to try and get ourselves one of these. That's not going to be like an important thing that we do straight away, but that's probably something we want to do when we get the new bumper and the body kit fitted. All right, let's continue getting these out. You reckon you're going to be able to get this one out, Ollie? We've got 2 10mm. These brackets are definitely inventive, to say the least. Top's broken, rewired, crappy little bottom mount's broken too. Alright, let's chuck this up. Let's get the right side one. I'm going to clean all this up before I put these in for the last time. Man, that looks so much better. Alright, let's fiddle around with this and try and get this in. So one thing I'm not sure about is if these non-Xenon headlights are even going to plug into the Xenon loom. So we've got high beam, low beam, Parkers. That's probably the plug that goes to the controller box. We got one light, we've got a Parker light, we've got another one there. So we've got 4 plugs all together and 3. So we've got 3 plugs on the new headlight. And I'm pretty sure, see under here they had 3 holes, 1, 2 and 3, and this has been repaired as well, so that's not ideal. All right, so that's where the control box normally goes. I think it's got like as a basic understanding, it's got main power in, and then it's got all its signals, and then it outputs the signals from the control box to the headlight. It does say on the Nissan wiring diagram that there is like an extra little loom that goes from the control box to the globes, which you would expect. But we'll get this in there, we'll test some wires, see what our signals are when we chuck the headlights on and off, and it should be pretty straightforward to get these wired up to these new headlights, I think. All right, I'm gonna chuck some washers on there, and then we'll get a shot of putting the other one in, I reckon. So half of the wiring we need is on the old headlights. Obviously they had some $2 HID kit with some bodgy wiring, but the factory loom is on here, but they have teed into it. So we're going to remove that carefully, clean it up a little bit, and then reuse that for the new headlights. So you can see on the new headlights, we've got our low beam and our high beam. So I think the low beam is a H1 and this one's like a HB3 or something like that. So this one's got 2 prongs, which is this plug here. So that one's the same. The only difference between the Xenon and the non-Xenon is that this low beam normally comes from a power pack under here and gives a signal in there. So we're just going to need to modify the wiring a little bit for that low beam, but apart from that, it should be pretty straightforward and easy. So I'm just going to pop this little loom off, clean it up, cut the extra bits off, tape them up and terminate those ends, and then we'll chuck this new headlight in on the driver's side, and then we're pretty much good to put the bumper on. All right, go time. Left hand headlight, right hand headlight, right hand headlight. I know my lefts and rights. Get this plugged in, Parker light on the end. Real carefully, there's a little locator just in there. Beautiful, that one fit up really nicely. Chuck some bolts in loosely.
How much did you say these are?
1,100 bucks each. Just Jap are pretty good to deal with like that. Have a big bunch of goodies coming from Just Jap too, straight after Rego, so stay tuned for that. Pretty keen, something that's going to make this a proper Skyline. Alright, let's chuck the front bar on. So it needs that GDR front bar and we are set. So we've got to put all those clips in the front so it's not pushed up 100% tight in here, but we'll put those clips in. Definitely looks a lot nicer, doesn't it? We are getting there, guys. So we're almost there with those fresh headlights in there. Looks 100 times better. Just can't wait to get this thing registered and get that GDR front on it, because it's going to completely transform the way this car looks, especially once we've got a set of wheels on there as well. Unfortunately, we still got to wait for this cam gear and the idle air controller, which it is Christmas, so it may take a day or two longer, but we're going to hang in there and hope that that gets here as soon as possible. The whole car is ready now, so this has dragged on a little bit more than we wanted it to. We did want to have this sort of through Rego and Rego by now, but we can't help what we keep running into. It keeps pushing us back, but we keep pushing forward, keep doing what we can do while we can do it.
One eternity later.
All right, guys, we are in luck. It's Monday and we got the package, we got our package. It actually came. So I can't guarantee that what we need is in this package, but it looks about the right size. It is off some random off Facebook marketplace. So fingers crossed it is actually what we need. Let's chuck it on a table and open it up and make sure we got what we ordered. All right, this is a moment of truth. We'll start with the idle control valve. That looks to me the right shape for an idle control valve. Do you want to carefully try and unpack that? You know what I've just noticed as well? On the end of it, the idle screw is not wound all the way in, which is a pretty good start, unless he's done that himself. He's even cleaned up the surface pretty well as well. And these are in pretty good condition. It's looking pretty good. All right, so that's one good thing. It's looking pretty promising for the second thing, hopefully. Let's unwrap that one as well. It's real heavy, that one, isn't it? The guy was really nice to deal with. He does have a bunch of Skyline parts, so I might put the link to his marketplace below this video as well. So he's even got the bolt in there as well. A little bit of surface rust, but that's to be expected. From what I could see, there is a little bit of a difference between the non-turbo and the turbo neo ones. The turbo ones are known to have the orange dot on the front as well. So that's got the orange dot. That's got the orange dot. No matter how hard I turn, oh, that does not turn at all different to the gear. Whereas this one, when I get this off a little bit later, I'll show you what this one does. It actually moves and clicks, which is not good, which is why that inner seal in here is all leaking on ours. All right, let's start off by changing that idle control valve, I reckon, man. Yeah. The idle control valve will make a big difference to the car just running normally, obviously. And it's probably a lot easier to get to than the gear. Yeah. So we'll start off with that, I reckon. I think we've had this idle control off probably 100 times now, so I won't bore you guys. We'll get this old one off and the new one on real quick, and then we'll cut back and start the motor up and make sure she's all sweet. All right, guys, we got these two off. Let's go. And Ollie's already looked at them and compared both of the units together, and they look exactly the same, which is great. Only difference being our idle control screws all the way in and mashed, and this is not. So hopefully that's all good. We'll get this hose off. The other thing is, I'd love to reuse this brand new gasket. That was kind of satisfying, I'll be honest. I'm not going to put any more gasket goo on there. I'm gonna let that go like that. So we'll get that hose off. Do you want to grab those pliers, Ollie? So there's this side and like that. Put it on exactly how it came off. These are all good. We'll take that bleeder off when we want to bleed the coolant up again. I'm just gonna put that straight on like it is, assuming that it came off working. It should go back on working.
Alright, the idle control valve is now on. We got all the bolts in and we're ready to give it a start.
We're looking good. What's it at? 1,000. We're at 1,000 RPM. It's on cold start, obviously. Well, it's probably off cold start. It's like 40 degrees here today. It's so hot in the shed, but I wanted to get this done as quick as I can to give us the best chance of getting this ready for this week. So once we've set the timing, the base timing, which I haven't done yet, and we need to set that idle screw. I have set the TPS voltage, which I'll double check later. But that's all looking pretty damn good. The fact that that's doing anything and it's lowered the idle heaps is absolutely amazing. It puts the biggest grin on my face after all we've been through with this idle control valve that we just took off. That's awesome. So it's catching the idle, everything. It's bringing it back down. Probably lower that down. What's that sitting on now? We want it just under 1, like 800. It's like 950. It should probably still be on cold start a little bit, which usually idles a bit higher. Beautiful, guys. That's all the pipes set out properly, so we haven't got any bung in here or anything anymore. Everything's all sorted, everything's hooked up exactly how it's meant to be. All right, part 1 of the 2-part process is definitely a raging success. I'm gonna wait for it to cool down a little bit. It's a good start. It's a really good start. I'm gonna wait for it to cool down a little bit. I'm gonna clean this up. I'm gonna get that onto the front of that. All right, we'll see you back in 2 secs for you, and it'll probably be a couple of hours for me. We'll be back out here and pulling that motor apart, getting that cam on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, no oil leaks. I did have a bit of a thought. There's 2 ways I can do this. I can do this properly, or I can do it the quick way, which will probably bite me in the ass. Let me explain. So I can either just pull the top off with this rocker cover, loosen this, try and keep everything on TDC, crack the bolt, pull the cam off without taking the front of the motor off, and hope that I keep everything on TDC. Slide this cam off really carefully while holding that belt tight, slide the new one on, and then check everything 5,000 times and make sure we're still on TDC, and then put everything back together. Or I can do everything properly and pull everything off: the shroud, the fan, the belts, the front of the motor, the crank pulley, the belt off, take the cam off, put the new cam on, and then put everything back together. So my 2 issues are, one way is properly and takes at least another hour, or the second way will probably still end up taking me half an hour or so, but it does risk the belt jumping teeth and not having everything lined up properly. So there's always a lot more risk with things being done the faster, quicker way, but it is a lot more tempting as well. So I'm gonna ponder on this for a little bit. I'm gonna crank some music, stare at the motor aimlessly for about 10 minutes, and then probably wish that I just started pulling it apart and did things properly, which is probably the way I'm going to do it, I'll be honest. We'll get cracking into it. I'm not going to bore you again with pulling the motor apart for the 650,000th time. I'm just going to cut straight back to you once I got this cam gear off, because I want to show you the difference between our cam gear that we've got over there, the new one, and our old one. I'm going to show you where this one's definitely 100% leaking from. You can even see, I don't know if you guys can see that, just from running the motor before, we've got oil along the back, and then we've got it all flicked along from the in between the plate, everywhere in line with that. I'm going to do it the proper way. I've already decided. I'm just looking at the motor. I'm not taking a risk and getting this far through the process, getting the right things, and then stuffing it up by trying to cut corners. Let's do it properly. I'll cut back in once I got that cam shaft off, and we'll show you the comparison for the 2 cams, and we'll go from there. there's obviously right tools for every job. I don't have any of them. I'm dealing with what I've got and doing what I can with what I've got, obviously, just like most of you guys probably would as well. We've got the main bolt for the cam undone now. Got the cam locked up, and we need to crack this bolt, which is super tight, so we just lock the cam up and get a big brake bar in there. So we've got this off now, and I'm pretty keen to show you exactly what the go is with this cam in comparison. So the whole motor is on TDC, obviously, as it has been about 300 times now. This is our old cam, obviously. I've just put it down. Sorry, I've already got it mixed up. This is our new cam because it's got this front cover bolt, which does actually have a seal in there, but that's not where we're leaking from. The VCT, the idea with the VCT is it can move a couple of degrees each way, and the computer does control that via oil pressure into here from a solenoid that's on the front of the motor there. So our issue with this one is because that cam gear can turn, there needs to be a seal in here, and I can already see that it's wet around there as well. I'm not sure how easy I'm going to be able to show you, but if I can turn that, or how can I do it so that I can, what if I stuff that in there? I don't know if you can see that. I can turn that all the way around. It's probably not showing that very well, but this one is stiff as, and I can't turn that at all. So the other person I found online who made a video about this is the oil was weeping out through here, through that seal, because this outer part and that inner part are separate. And hear that. So that's a pretty telltale sign that that's failed, and she no good. So this guy off Facebook Marketplace was kind enough to include this and the bolt for me. Everything in there looks exactly the same to me. Hope you guys are as happy with that as I am. All right, we'll get that on the motor and we'll see if we can undo that. I'm just gonna wipe that down a little bit and clean it up, and we'll get it straight on. So I just remembered that I had a little bit of a fiddly coil pack loom when I touched it, and I don't know if it's going to focus on that. I've got brakes on the wires, obviously where they're getting maybe a timing mark from. Well, no, they should be getting it from the loops. Everything else looks good. I mean, well, when I say good, I use that term very loosely, but there's definitely brakes in the wires there. So I'm just going to peel back the outer convolute on this and re-tape it, and tape those two individually in case that spark is jumping across to the other broken one. It's the next day, the whole motor's back together. I just had to finish a few things off this morning. Came home from work early just to get it done because I can't deal with wondering if it's all going to be okay, so I needed to just finish it and get it done. Ran out of daylight last night, worked until it was dark, and it was also like 40 degrees Celsius here, so it was stinking hot. The flies were annoying me, it was dark, I wasn't concentrating right, and I didn't want to stuff something up, so I thought, you know what, I'll just leave it and finish it off. We got it all back together. I didn't film it because you've seen it about 300 times now, so I don't want to bore you guys to death. As much as it's killing me doing the same thing over and over again, I really just want this thing working and everything fixed. It is part of the fun, I know. It's just going to be stressful doing the same thing and dealing with the same stuff over and over again. So hopefully we've covered all our bases now. We've got it sorted. I haven't replaced any hoses or done any of that yet because I want to start it up and make sure this little puppy works. That idle control was a good sign when we first started up before. I really hope that this cam gear is in good condition. Everything made it look like it was all in good condition. There was no like strange movement. There was no staining or leaking or anything like that I could see, which is a really good sign. I'm going to show you again a little bit later with some multi-grips what our old cam gear was doing. We've got coolant, we've had the bleed nipples out. I'm going to crank that back up. I reckon we're pretty much ready to start. The other thing is, if this all starts up and runs fine, The next thing I'll do is take Ollie around the block a couple times, make sure we've got no oil leaks and it's all looking good. And I'll probably come back and start trimming up some of that new silicone hose that I've got, start replacing all these rubber lines because they're all so brittle and hard and they've probably been on here since new. So just stuff like this, these, but these all turn on there, they're not tight. These are probably cracked on the fuel pressure regulator. Like, just everything needs a bit of attention. I've turned the motor over a handful of times, so I know that the timing marks are all good. I even gave it a little start on the key just to crank up a little bit of oil pressure, and then I tightened the crank bolt. We've torqued the crank bolt to spec, 150 newton meters on the crank bolt again, which is not too bad once you lock the motor up. We've torqued that one up, so we're all good. Let's get it started. Sounding pretty good so far. So the key is going to be letting it run for a little bit and seeing if we have any of that oil seepage out the back of that cam like the last one. Looking pretty dry so far though. I reckon we'll do a little paper test now, then we'll take it around the block and then we'll do a paper test when we get back as well.
Alright, so we just went for a drive and now we're going to go check for some oil leaks.
I'm a bit nervous. This is a big moment. Dry. There was oil spray all over here before, oil spray on there, oil spray up there. We're looking good, man. Yes. All right, that's awesome news. Oh man, I am so friggin' relieved. You don't understand. There's no oil on that backing plate. Let's do the paper test, Ollie. Hold that fan. Alright, do you want to hold the fan for me then? Just keep your fingers clear of everything else. We're going to give that a... That's a clean bit of paper if I've ever seen one. No leaks. No leaks, no leaks, no leaks. The next thing we need to do is get this engine bay cleaned up, so get rid of all that residual oil that we had from when it was leaking. I'm going to take it out on the road and just give it a hose down, and I reckon we're pretty much there. So like I said before, the next thing we'll do after I give it a clean is I'm going to go through with Ollie and measure out all those vacuum hoses, and we're going to cut up some brand new fresh silicone to replace all those vacuum hoses so we know we've got no leaks. It drives beautifully, it's really smooth, everything feels normal. And then I've got some degreaser to go over the bottom of the car, got some brand new wiper blades to put in the wipers because they were all cracked and broken and crap. Put the timing cover on, put all the little clips on, put that air intake on, make those vacuum hoses, put the 3 wipers on, give everything an armor all, and I reckon we're pretty good to go for tomorrow morning. As nervous as that makes me feel, I think Ollie's going to be right. He told me not to be nervous and not to worry, so I'm going to go with what he says. Wise little boy. I think it's all done. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm a bit nervous, a bit anxious about the whole thing, but we've got all the new wiper blades in, we got all the motor back together, we got all the new silicone piping back on as well. Everything's pretty much done. All the chassis rails are clean. I've checked all the seat belts, make sure they click. I've got the jack in the back. I've remeasured the height. I think we're about as ready as we're ever going to be. So I guess hopefully, fingers crossed, if everything goes to plan tonight and I can get a permit online to drive this tomorrow, we should be on our way with Ollie to the rego check. I've got the permit and everything I need here. I guess it's time to do it. Let's do it. So we've just come from the vehicle inspection. What do you reckon, Ollie?
We got a registered.
We got it registered. We actually got it registered. What was that like, man?
That was so nerve-wracking.
That was the most nerve-wracking thing I've done in I don't know how long. I can't believe that. I got the biggest grin on my face. Ollie hasn't stopped smiling. Big high five from Ollie too. I'm gonna go drop the kids off and I'm gonna go get some number plates. We'll see you back at home. So far, everything's worked out really well. I think all that worrying was for no reason, but I mean, it's just one of those things that you can't help. Thank you for watching this episode, guys. Stay tuned for the next one. Stuff starts getting pretty exciting. Just Jap have jumped on board and hooked us up with a range of parts that we'll be throwing on in the next episode. HKS exhaust, truss intercooler, Pexi air filter, a ton of really cool stuff, guys. Stay tuned and we'll see you in the next episode. See you later.